All right. Good afternoon, but it's good evening here in the Philippines. Good evening, Dirk and Cordula and the rest of the Insto delegates. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the presence of my co-project leader, Edisor de la Santa. We're both from the University of the Philippines. And if you remember what I said early on during the introductory part, uh, the University of the Philippines, Diliman, is hosting the Batanes Observatory. Before I move on to the next slide, I'd like to, well, thank you, Dirk, for giving that brief background about the history of Insto. And it so happened that I'm quite familiar with two observatories in China, which is Hongchun and CD, as my research sites for my PhD at the Waikato, New Zealand. But I'm not going to talk about that. For today, I will be talking about the Batanes Observatory. And again, thank you for this opportunity to share our experiences, to share our journey, how we set up the Batanes Observatory, very much informed or against the backdrop of participatory approach. Okay, now here you see on screen a momentous event which eventuated last June 16, 2023, during the acceptance ceremony for us being part of the Insto Network. So you will see I am joined by the Secretary General and then the Secretary of Tourism, the Philippine Secretary of Tourism, Cristina Frasco, and then we are also joined by the Chancellor of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Edgardo Bistan. And there you see Edisor and De La Santa and Augustus Resurrection. It's important to note that apart mentioning that UP is hosting the Batanes Observatory, I also would like to underscore the fact that this initiative is made possible because of the multidisciplinary collaboration of the three project leaders, myself, Edisor, and Augustus. Yesterday, we had our fifth TWG or Technical Working Group meeting, and we welcome more members who will be helping us monitor other issue areas for as we move on to phase 2. But I will dwell on that in the next or succeeding slides. But at this point, so Batanes Islands is actually located at the northernmost part of the Philippines. You see the star. So that's where Batanes is. It has a total population of 18,831 with 6 municipalities. Now, Batanes is composed of three major islands. So you have Basque here, where you will see the airport, Basque, and then we have the Sabtang, and then we also have Itbayat. Now, these three islands, major islands, are popular destinations among the tourists, but then each island has its own unique features, right? Like, for example, more of the for the adventurous part or the adventurous tourists, they would go to Itbayat, and then for Sabtang, this is where you will see the strip of old stone houses, which is actually inscribed in UNESCO tentative list. And then stone houses are critical for the Ivatans because they're very prone to tropical cyclones. And then Pasco is more of the hills are alive, if you know what I mean. It's a beautiful scenic view where you could also see some historical sites, old churches, among others. It has 52 accommodations, but there's only one hotel. Most of the facilities or the accommodation facilities would fall under the Mabuhay accommodations. Again, if you remember, I greeted you this morning, Mabuhay, to mean welcome. But that actually, Mabuhay accommodations include facilities like tourist inns, pension houses, and hostels, to name a few examples. The majority are also our homestay facilities. In 2017 until 2019, the island received around 45,439. And that's something that we looked into, or a major reason why we chose Batanes as the first, again, the first ever observatory, the first of its kind in the Philippines. So here you see several reasons why, but before that, I want you to pay close attention to this one. I mentioned about the old stone houses, or the stone houses, which is located in Chavayan in Sabtang Island. So a few reasons why we chose this. Well, the only, and I think I also mentioned this morning, that Batanes is the only province in the Philippines mandated by law as a protected area, both landscapes and seascapes, owing to its extensive ecosystems. And then inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage tentative list, in particular the Chabayan, or Old Stone Houses. It's the home of the indigenous peoples, the Ivatans, and a place of emotional appeal where you can really feel the sense of a strong sense of community and pride of place among this indigenous group. Now, here is the start of the most equally exciting part of my presentation. Um, these are these are the cornerstones, you would say, of a participatory process, which the team adopted from Insto. These are cornerstones of participatory anchored on Insto framework, building awareness among local holders, establishing and fostering a strong support system, and forming an engagement of a local group. Now, let me walk you through how we characterize all this participatory process that led to our acceptance. Just move this acceptance to Insto Network. Sorry about that. Anyway, so building awareness among local stakeholders. This is underscored by, well, stakeholders mapping. As early as 2019, we were brave enough, right? We're not Ivatans, but then having considered those key characteristics, bravely we went to Batanes, and because we also know people at the provincial office, and also from the Batanes State College, we started introducing Insto to them. What we hope to achieve, we gave them like what Insto is all about, the importance of monitoring, the key issue areas in the Batanes, having received that number of tourists from 2017 to 2019. So the group that were involved, or which we first met, includes the provincial government of Batanes, the Batanes State College, which I said serves as our research arm, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the Batanes chapter, or we call the DENR, and the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples Batanes, NCIP, Batanes chapter. The experience, I would say, you would really see that they're interested. The interest is there because their goal really, they hope to have sustainable and resilient Batanes, right? Batanes tourism, but it's a more understanding of how to get there. That's something that really stimulated their interest. That's what we observed. And then after that, part of the process is to establish and foster a strong support system. Now, this is very critical because when we talk about institutional support, we don't just talk about financial imperatives, right? When we talk about support, we also talk about the, the knowledge, expertise, the assets, the mobilization of all these things in order to advance our objectives to be the first ever observatory in the Philippines. And with that, Governor Malukayko created the executive order somehow that seals the commitment of the technical working group to continuously monitor the indicators that they themselves identify over time. In our preliminary study, which you can see in our website, we have included the organizational structure of, and you will see all these multisectoral groups. There are 23 multisectoral groups composing the TWG, representing the private, public, and nonprofit organizations. At the same time, part of establishing and fostering a support system is a formal partnership between the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and the provincial government of Batanes, as is the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and the Batanes State College. Endorsement campaign is important, of course, and that means introducing, again, the INSTO framework, our objectives, our how we see it benefiting the destination, I mean, at the destination level. And by that, I mean introducing, again, this project to the Secretary of Tourism, to the National Economic Development Authority, to Philippine Statistics Authority, and of course to the Chancellor to solicit their support. And all of those supports, written supports, were part of of our submission when we launched our application to install. And then forming an engagement of a local group. Now, this is really critical. So I already mentioned the creation of Executive Order 34 based on the commitment, expression of commitment, written and written expression of commitment by the TWG. So here in the photo, and if you could see it, so this is an example of the indicators identified by the TWG and the signatures as an expression of their commitment to monitor the said indicators. But there's something I want to mention at this point because I might forget it. When I say indicators, it does not mean that there are no indicators or any what you call that measures to monitor. They have. It's just that they're not structured. For example, every month they of course monitor their tourist arrivals, but then they also monitor the how many are employed in the tourism sectors, how many beds, accommodation facilities they have, or food service facilities they have. But then what is missing as well is, for example, in the context of resident satisfaction, they need to have baseline data on the locals' perspective about the impacts of tourism on their daily life. Right? So those are just examples. I'm just trying to say that it's not as if they don't have any indicators at all. They do have, it's just that it lacks systematic monitoring. It lacks structures in doing so. So what is critical is that in the technical working group, we let them identify the stakeholders to identify the needs. What are the sustainability issues, right? So of these sustainability issues that you've identified across 3 islands, then let's prioritize them. Which one or which 4 or which 5 will be prioritized for phase 1, right? And then, so that became, the needs assessment became the departure point for the identification of the key priority areas for phase 1. And you see it on your screen, right? Governance, resident satisfaction, carrying capacity, and solid waste. And these priority areas, from these key areas, they identified indicator sets. Again, you will see complete list of those indicators in our preliminary studies. I'm happy that Dirk mentioned that you started originally by 9. So because my next slides will show this, what are these key issue areas, which you will see are not really different from what you experience or what other destinations experience. But what is again unique within the context of the Batanes it being a protected area, it being the home of the indigenous peoples, the Ibatans, is the need to monitor indicators of cultural integrity, which is also part of their vision of what Batanes should be, and also biodiversity. Now, we could not advance all these things without various forms of methodological references. I think there's only one thing that I would like to emphasize in this regard, and that we keep on saying that what we cannot measure, we cannot manage. That's true. But we believe in the team that to produce the strength of our study, the strength of the evidences that we produce is only as strong as the data that we input in that study. And that strength actually requires commitment, constant engagement with the stakeholders. So you would see here various forms. We didn't just settle for survey. It's important for us to communicate with the residents. It's important for us to talk to local officials, right? So that they can clarify the issues mentioned at the grassroots level. That is important for us. Next year, we will be starting looking into tourist satisfaction or tourism seasonality, right? But then it's easy for us to just develop a tool, fine, being an academician in the area of tourism and hospitality, but we're not going to do that. What we will do is that when we go there next year, we will talk to the people who have strong engagement or constant engagement with the tourists. And that would be the tourist operators, for example. I know my time is running. Sorry about that. I got carried out with all these things. So you see here the emergent issue areas and the 4 priority areas as noted early on. And some photos during the needs assessment activity. Now, the indicator sets, what I just want to show here is that the 6 indicators, you would also see the agencies who committed to monitor them, right? So, and then more pictures during the needs assessment, during the indicator setting, which we carried out in August last year. So everything that I said eventuated within the 5-year period when we started in 2019 until we reached our goal to be part of INSTO. But as Dirk mentioned, it doesn't stop there. Our work continues, right? Our job continues. So as you could see here, right, we have something that we look into the future. So for this phase 2, we're looking at these indicators or issues, right? Economic benefits, tourism seasonality, employment, and wastewater management. And there you have for the last year. I know I don't have any more time, but just to highlight the vision of the observatories to be a well-preserved, and these were identified by the stakeholders themselves, a well-preserved natural and cultural environment that supports sustainable tourism, promotes heritage conservation and social equity through healthy collaboration and data from the observatory. I will end it here. So here, you would see the tenets, right, of a participatory process anchored on INSTO framework. But in order for us to achieve the observatory's vision, and that is shared meaning and purpose, we need to carry out all these things. And these are all involved. These are all part of the observatory's objectives. So you could see really the interconnection, the importance of these 3 principles, core principles of a participatory process in order to advance our objectives. Our end goal really is a shared meaning and purpose, a well-preserved natural and cultural environment, heritage conservation, social equity, and healthy collaboration. With that, I end my presentation. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much indeed.